Welcome to the Massive Passive Show, where you'll hear serious discussions about everything real estate investors encounter building their portfolios. Many radio shows and podcasts talk about real estate investing, but the host of the Massive Passive Show actually do it. Sit back and relax and learn about becoming a massive passive deal maker.
Good morning and happy Saturday. Welcome to the Massive Passive Show, brought to you by the Lone Star REIA. This is one of your hosts, James Haney, and I am joined by our other host, one of our other hosts, real estate investor / poet, Mr. Ray Sasser. Good morning, Ray. How are you doing?
Okay, now you're going to be making fun of me the whole show.
No, we're not making fun of you. It's a skill. Being a poet is a skill, and what that is referring to is, one of our favorite things to do is come up with acronyms. We're going to talk about a different acronym today. You've heard of us talk about Be Calm. Well, we have another one today for you, and everybody has heard ROI, but have you heard of ROT? So ROI is return on investment. ROT is return on time. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We do have some other things to get into as well. But first and foremost, remember our website is LoneStarREIA.net. That's Lone Star, REIA.net. If you just go to that site, that will take you to everything you need to know about us. There's links on there to go to Alamo REIA and then also Greater Houston REIA. And then it'll show you all of our events, our meetings, our classes coming up. Anything you need to know about us is on that page. And also, if you need to connect with one of our wonderful vendors, we have lots of great vendors for you. If you're looking for any kind of contractor, trade, it's going to be there on that site. So again, LoneStarREIA.net. It's LoneStarREIA.net for all of our information. So let's go ahead and jump into the show. A couple of things we do have coming up is, we have the godfather of deal making coming to town coming up here in the next couple of weeks. And in fact, I believe it's 2 weeks from today. Mr. Peter Fortunato is going to be here for our meeting, and he's going to do an afternoon session. He's going to be here all day. So Peter, Ray, do you want to say anything about Peter?
Well, of course, I think Peter walks on water. I ran across him 40 years ago, and I started listening to him, and it just changed how we were doing everything. And I wasn't doing it the way the internet gurus were saying, or the way they say it now. He really harpens on driving value and really being a technician and solving problems. And he's coming to town. Not many people know this, but we're going to take him out to dinner the night before. About 12 or 15 of some of the most active hotshot investors that I know. And we're going to be trying to suck any information out of them, any knowledge we can, because the guy's just such a phenomenal transactional deal maker type person and maybe one of the most creative minds there is. And then Saturday, we've got him presenting in the morning for about an hour, and then all afternoon, we've got him for all afternoon. So, I think you said this the other day, James. Peter told us that, hey, bring your questions, bring your problems, challenge him, and I like that. That's what, to me, that's the kind of people I want to hang out with, the people that challenge me and push me and make the best out of me. And that's how Peter's lived his whole life.
Yeah, he's definitely an open book. He's definitely a down to earth guy. And like one of the things that he told us when we were talking to him, he's like, look, I just want to be in a room full of people that want to talk about real estate and want to be close to McDonald's. So that tells you right there that, he really wants to, he doesn't hold anything back. If you ask him a question, he's going to answer it. And, I'm really excited about it, about him coming.
One thing that I got from him early on was just his passion and his love. And as a result of that, real estate became my life. It became my life, and everybody that knows me, it's that's my circle of friends. And in fact, that's why I love being a part of the REIA, is because we have built a community of like-minded people. We've got people, by the way, coming over from our REIA in San Antonio, and of course our REIA in Houston are going to be there. Our people in Houston, and it's, you just surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do. You know, if you want to be a great bicyclist, just join a bicycle club, and everything else will take care of itself. All you got to do is show up. So create that environment where all you have to do is show up, and you'll learn real quick what the fun stuff to do is and what not to do. In fact, that's kind of part of our conversation, because we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about what are good returns on our time and what's bad returns, what's good rot or bad rot. So we're going to, hopefully you got a list of some things, and I made a list of some things, and I think that's going to be a pretty interesting conversation. By the way, I did say REIA, and I just want to, it's just so exciting to see our REIA grow, and the energy and excitement from our volunteers, from like Ro and Nikki, to the infrastructure like Becky and James and Hal and Richard, and just having all these people, and Pat, better not forget Pat, he'll hurt me. But having this good tight knit group that are all rowing the boat the same direction, it's just a lot of fun to be a part of it.
Yes, I'll second that. You know, I have a lot of fun. You know, I'm heavily involved with, you know, pretty much everything that you talked about. And I'm very close with the volunteers, and we have a great relationship. And, you know, I do everything I can, you know, every chance I get to thank them for their contribution, you know, because, you know, they are, in fact, giving back to the community, you know, which is, you know, one of the purposes of the REIA, which REIA, we do want to kind of explain that REIA is Real Estate Investing Association. And so, you know, we have our monthly meetings where we get together and we give back, you know, to the community, and we build that community, and we build relationships. You know, go ahead.
Yeah, there's no truer statement than you get what you give. And the more a person gives, the more they get. It's just been my life experience. And I think you've run across somebody like Peter, and it's the same thing. You know, that he's lived a life that a lot of us want to live, and he's doing exactly what he wants. And some people say, well, what about retirement? And we have some friends that are after me to retire, and it's like, I'm never going to retire. I'm going to change and modify how I use my time. I've become a lot more sensitive on how I use my time, but I'm never quitting this game. I mean, we've got 3 deals that we're trying to buy right now, and I'm excited as I can be about it. I mean, it's just an adventure of it. It's truly an adventure. And what's the point of living if all you're going to do is sit around and watch the sunrise and the sunset? The hell with that. I'm going to make the sunrise. I'm going to make the sunset.
So you in essence have what you're saying there is, if you get involved and you go down this path of, you know, being successful and financially free, you can essentially write your own story, you know, instead of having it written for you.
You know, it's a little bit off topic, but I remember when the Seinfeld show was running and they tried to sign him up for 1 more year. You know, they offered him $100 million to do that 1 more year of episodes, and he wouldn't do it. He turned it down. And I think he got to that point, like, what's a good return on my time? And I don't think that recording 26 shows or 30 shows, whatever they record, is that time sensitive. But he looked at it and said, that's not a good return on my time. And they were going to pay him $100 million, and he turned it down. And I think we really, really want to think about how we spend our time, what we spend our time doing, and make sure we get the best return on that time.
So let's go ahead and jump into that. So first of all, Ray, before we talk about ROT, talk a little bit about ROI. return on investment. Give your kind of perspective on return on investment, and then we'll get into ROT.
Return on investment could actually mean return on time too. I mean, time is an investment. So you could be nitpicky like that, but hell, let's just call it what it is. It's return on time. And what am I getting out of that? What do I get for my time? And I used to go look at properties and spend 3 or 4 hours looking at the property until I realized that I can do with smart questions and intelligent due diligence, I can find out 95% of what I need to know without looking at the property. Because the house, when I go look at a house or commercial property, it can't sell it to me. So I don't put a lot of energy into the property until I know that I have a meeting of the minds with the people. So as a result of being real sensitive about how I spend my time, then I look at what can I cut out that's big time wasters. We used to get 100 leads a month, and I spent all my time chasing those leads until I realized I don't need to do that. I could literally do the same amount of work in about 1/10 of the time if I just ask the right questions and I talk to people and qualify people. I think that's a big thing, is qualify everything you do, put everything you do under a microscope and say, is that really what I want to do? Does that going out and spending 4 hours looking at that property when I could probably figure out everything I need to know in 15 minutes by just learning what the right questions are and just looking at the right knowledge? I want to give up the time with my son in wrestling or my daughter in soccer? Do I want to give that time up, wasting my time just going and look at a house and trying to make myself feel better? And it's not necessary. So yeah, we want to be, and I spent, when I first started, our company has probably done 1,000 rehabs on our properties. And when I look at how much time I wasted in the first probably 10 years, I was so heavily involved in rehabbing. And once it's in your DNA, you want to stick with it. And so I've just decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm gonna try to manage that and get other people to do that part of it, because it's just so time intensive and it takes you away from other important things.
Yeah, so you definitely got to be spending time on the right things. What are some of the things that you are doing to make real estate investing fun?
Well, you and Richard and Becky and I and Hal and Pat, we're putting a lot of time in building the Greater Houston real estate investor community and the Alamo community. We've got lots of members in both cities, and it's just a lot of fun. And so what we're doing is we're surrounding ourselves with the people that we like. I'm on March 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, I'm going to Branson to talk to a person there who's an expert on Airbnbs. And we recently took on some Airbnbs. And by the way, it's turning out to be a lot more fun. And it also gets everybody in the office involved in that process. But we're going to go spend 4 or 5 days in Branson, and we're going to see our daughter on our way up there. And so it's just a way of, I'm a big believer in education. So we're going to spend time learning a lot of the stuff that we don't know about Airbnbs. And at the same time, we're going to hang out with people that are our friends and that we like. And we invite people to go with us, and we hang out with our buddies. And, when we went to Europe, we went with Quest to Europe 4 or 5 years ago. And it was 125 real estate investors on one of those river cruises for 25 days. And, as far as having an impact on me and being around a lot of smart and active people, it's just what you learn from that, it's invaluable. So that's some of the things I do to try to make what I do fun. And it is fun. I enjoy it. And plus, I like making things. I like making things better. If something is half performing, or I can fix it or make it more productive, I like being a part of that. I mean, I looked at an interview with Elon Musk the other day, and a person that builds things, a person that makes things, there's just some sort of value in that. Whether it's making relationships or making a better widget or whatever, there's something that you never want to not be a part of that.
Yeah, and don't forget about that saying. If you like what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. So real estate investing can be fun. It is fun. You just gotta, make it fun and have that passion for it. And everybody that we hang around, or the people that we hang around, they have that passion, and that's why we hang around them, because we're gonna, they say, misery loves company. Well, guess what? Success loves company too. And that's what we're about, is being the right people at the right time, and helping each other grow. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those things that we want to talk about, as far as getting. You mentioned there's good ways to get return on your time, and there's bad ways to get return on your time. So let's talk about some of those things, Ray.
Yeah, so let's break this down into two kind of categories. I would call it bad rot and good rot. What do you think of that, James?
Oh, I love it.
Okay, so what I just kind of made some notes of what I think, and maybe we could talk a little bit about them. I talked earlier about bad rot was being a rehabbing expert. I want to say that was bad rot. We did a lot of fire damaged houses and stuff over the years, and we're looking at a property now that is a major rehab, and it's 78 miles out of town. So that's another huge obstacle. Well, we're involved in pretty heavy rehabs. I see something like as near afraid of it as maybe other people should be, and maybe I should be too. But so if I wouldn't have paid my dues on the rehabbing part, I probably wouldn't or shouldn't take on a project like this. And because I did do that, in that sense, it was a good use of my time. But what I did is, on those rehabs, since I got involved in a lot of details and stayed in those details too long. And what you really need to do is train people to take over for what you're doing, not be the GC, not be the electrician or the AC guy. I mean, I went in, did stupid stuff like got my AC license, and it's like, okay, that was a big waste of time. It was nice to have it. It was nice to say I had it. It was nice to be able to buy the equipment cheap, but I probably didn't need, instead of spending 500 hours getting my AC license, I could have probably spent 5 or 10 hours in a class and got at least enough knowledge to be intelligent, good decisions. In fact, I'll give you an example. I early on, George Eider, who's a CPA and the president of the Rich Club, when I was on the board of directors, he taught a 3-day tax class, and he basically went through generally things real estate investors need to know about taxes. And if it would have been a 3-hour tax class, it probably wouldn't have stuck with me as good. It would have been valuable. But a 3-day tax class, we really got to spend a lot of time. And he gave case studies of the different things, use money and investors and partners. And he went through that whole process. And I look back at that, and that gave me a huge advantage many times, a lot of transactions, because I knew what the tax consequences were. And I could set it up, I could structure transactions and do it differently. And it also gave me like a good foundation, so that when the new rules for Roth and traditional IRAs came along, I already had the basic underlying understanding of taxes. So then I could just augment instead of just I could augment my knowledge. So that 3 days was one of the most useful ways to spend my time I could ever do, because it kept helping me for years and years and years and years. And now you could talk about something relatively complicated in real estate investing that's tax related, and I can follow the conversation. And I may not be an expert at it. There may be little variations of it that I don't understand, but I can follow that conversation. So when you have Pete Fortunato come to town talking about some of these things, it does help to have that basic knowledge. Now, if you don't have it, you need to hang around or Peter Fortunato, because you're going to start building that knowledge. Education always keeps paying back. It pays back forever. And so that, as far as a great return on time, uh, that's good rot. I mean, there's no question that's good rot. So that's one example. Being that rehabber who spent 10 years, the jobs, working with the guys, that was a bad rot.
Yeah, and maybe with this, what I have here is going to basically kind of explain the same thing, but you also have a saying that we like to say, is the ladder on the right wall? Because if you have your ladder on the wrong wall, that could essentially, uh, you know, it's just, it would be the same thing as if you put a wrong address in your GPS, it's going to take you the wrong direction.
Well, you don't want to spend your whole life climbing up the rungs of the ladder to find out that it's still. I mean, first I had a corporate job for like years, and 5 years into that, I started doing real estate investing. And it was just, and I had my ladder on the wrong wall, and I was thinking, well, I can become a manager, then I could become a district manager maybe, and then a regional manager. And I looked at it and I thought, I don't want that kind of life. I want something. Robert Allen Bloop started looking, maybe I can do that. And then I started going to the REIAs, and it started making sense. And next, 5 years after I started, I quit my full-time job, and that was 1988, and I've gone full-time since 8. And I love it, and it's I couldn't agree with you more.
Like the bad rot, and then I want to get into some of the good rot. But and this one can go either way. But the word is partnerships, because if you get into a bad partnership, that could also be bad rot as well, because you can spend a lot of time, dealing with that. So what do you have about partnerships, Ray?
I think I could talk about that for hours. So, when I was 11 years old and my brother was 10, we got a paper route, and what was that, 54 years ago? And we're still partners. And Jack Miller, who was one of my one of the guys I learned the most from, he's passed away now, but he said there's 3 things, and I wish were all 3 of them. But he said one thing that destroy your real estate wealth, and one of them I remember was divorce. So no matter how bad you think it is with your partner, that's your spouse, do everything that would be bad for your financial future, unless it's there's a reason why that could be a bad partner. But really try hard to work with your partners. You said something earlier about you're talking about, or kind of alluded to, we're in a boat and we're doing this together, and sometimes there's rough seas, and that's okay, but we just rough seas. So partners are incredibly important. I think also in real estate investing, partners are anybody that have kind of the same goals that you do, that are willing and concerned enough to be better. That's kind of what I view as partners. I mean, we sold a property once to before we'd finished rehabbing. She came in there and she nitpicked us to death. And I realized that she was like the best thing that could have happened to us, because we weren't doing a good enough job. We weren't paying enough attention to detail. And she, in a way, was a partner, because she was willing to let us get off that hook, and she made us better. And that's what partners are supposed to do with each other. They're supposed to help take care of each other. There's a lot of people out there that come to mind who it's all about them. Even the REIAs, it's all about them. And when the REIA is all about you, have a good partnership. If the REIA is community, the Real Estate Investor Association is for the members first, then that creates a good partnership moving forward. And that's what we need to have. We need to develop and encourage those good partnerships every chance we can. And another thing with a partnership, a deal might last a day or an hour or a year or 3 years. And you're going to make a profit on that. A profit will be spent and then it's gone. But a partner can last forever. You know, my wife, we've been together, my brother and I been partners for years. Our sister works for us. My brother's sister works for us. We're partners. She helps us out. I mean, it's just everybody supports everybody in the family, whether these or not. A partner is probably one of the most valuable assets. Yeah. And sometimes with partners, they can be wrong and you still have to give in because, you know, this is a human condition we're going through and there's going to be ups and downs and we don't want to give up on partners. But on the other hand, if we're talking about good ROT, it's developing and growing partnerships. Bad ROT is working with a partner that won't work. For example, if you're, I kind of classify people as givers and takers, and you can see a taker a mile away. And if you can't reprogram or re-educate that taker, don't spend a lot of time. You know, life's too short. Think about your inner circle and your outer circle, your inner circle, but that outer circle, probably don't want to worry about that too much and just focus on the people in your inner circle.
You were actually reading your mind because I wanted to jump in that aspect of tips. You know, another thing that we always say around our partners is we want to win when our partners win. You know, right. and it's not, well, I'm going to win regardless. No, it's we're going to win together, and you know, our partners, we want to make sure that they win. That's what makes it good.
Yeah, I think that's the definition of a good partner is make your partner a winner. And the other thing about having good partners, probably just as important, maybe even more important, is be the partner you want. Or whether it's a person running your company, how are you behaving? You know, it's real easy to point the finger at the other and say that it's them, but what are you doing? What do you help your partner grow? What are you doing to grow? What are you doing to be important and vital? Relationship working? Is it a relationship where that partner is doing everything and you're just sitting there collecting the check? And I mean, you got to be honest. And there's no justifications doing a bad thing. You know, if that person cuts you off in traffic, you have a right to cut that person off. No, you have a right to end the relationship or you have a right to change it, but you don't have a right to be the wrong person. And so be the partner you want to be. That's a hard thing to do because it's hard to see ourselves you know, realistically. And it's easy for people, but we are. So we got to be that partner. If I take well, projects are Richard follow up and do projects if I'm not being the person that I'm expecting him to be. So
one other side note to that, you know, right now we have the football net, or a little snippet of a potential draft pick that they asked him, you had one thing to say to all the GMs, what would you say? And he says, just be somebody to somebody. You know,
I like that. Yeah.
You know, it's more about, you know, just getting better, making the team better and everything like that. When I heard that, I was like, be somebody to somebody. That was like, that was a pretty cool thing. I've never heard it put that way.
You know, I heard an interview with Dennis Rodman once, and somebody said, you know, you're not a very good role model. And if you know who Dennis Rodman is, you know there's going to be some expletives involved in his response to that statement.
Yeah.
And there were, and you can add the expletives because there were some, and he basically said, your role model, not your role model. And I think I kind of like that because he is his own person. But on the other hand, we are a role model. We have to be the role model and lead the right way in the right path. And I think be the sunshine and be the rising tide. And I say that to yourself. Say, I am the rising tide. I am the tide that raises all boats. If I'm just raising myself, I'm going to be, and I'm going to be lonely. And the heck with it. I'd rather, I don't, if you think about it, what is money is a way to or one to the next place. That's all it is change some values for is a way of buying a car. You don't want the money. Money a way of going. It's not for the money. It's for going on the trip. And so be raise people up to be like you, to be with you, to have fun with you, and it's not really about the money. So when we're doing any adventure, anything out there on a project or whatever, I'm not ever doing it for the project. I'm doing it for the relationship, and I'm doing it where it's going to take me.
So before the show, we did write down some things, and I want to throw some words out at you. From my perspective, that will contribute to you get a good return on your time. So vision of what that looks like, where you want to go, and then you got to have focus, and also got to constantly evaluate. Is there any of those that you want to specifically, kind of dive deep on?
Well, let's go.
Vision.
Okay, I like that.
Focus.
Yeah.
Patient. Evaluate and pivot.
What do you mean by pivot? What you're involved in?
Like for example, are there, you like to hold on to as many properties as you can. There's a time where, if there's properties that are taking up majority of your time, and that's in essence a bad return, then you're going to get rid of those properties so that you can focus on the other stuff. And that's kind of more of a pivot. The market changes. You have to pivot what you're doing, strategies and things like that.
Well, in fact, that happened the last time I was around Peter Fortunato. I went to his event, and one of the things is you can listen to the same message twice, but because you're a different person, the message means different things. And I try to hang around Peter. I try to go see him or be around him once or twice a year because he's such a thought leader. But my big takeaway this time with Peter was spend 80%, 20% of the problem properties and 20% of my time of the good properties. And I thought, that's going to be my pivot way when I came out of that 2-day event was to I'm going to, and in fact, those 2 properties we are preparing and we're putting up for sale. And then I'm going to focus on properties that are more in line with what my goals are. So it's really like you hit on big points there. I mean, you have the vision of what is right, what's not right. Just having this conversation, I think a lot of people don't return on time, good rotten versus, and so they just are doing every day. And you got to say, no, is this the best use of my time? And if you don't examine that, if you're not critical about that, it's not of a impetus to make you really focus on those questions. You can ask yourself the right questions, and we're going to come up with the right answers. In fact, the right questions are always more important than the right answers. So I love it. Now, one of the things I think, if we're going to have a rot, we have some KPIs. And I was thinking, I did a little research on this, James. I'm going to give you a quiz. Okay. Audience eat, right? So this is something that's not real estate related, but I'll give you some KPI.
Oh, a KPI is a key performance indicator.
Yeah, and I'm going to tie it to food because we all understand food, and so it may or may not be about real estate, but the power of KPIs. So let me ask you a question. Earn.
I'm a bad eater. I mean, as far as what I'm eating, I mean, I'm a good at just knowing what I'm eating or eating the right stuff. That's not one of my strengths.
Man, I feel like the spider sitting on the web just watching you come into my. You did perfect. You nailed it. Well, what if I were to tell you it's 30? 30 calories. Now, carrot, always know what a large carrot looks like. It's got a certain size. A carrot will fill you, right? Unless you're just dying of starvation. Okay, so how many calories will 20 tortilla chips have in them?
Getting a sweet spot for me there. I like
Mexican food, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So how many go to a Mexican restaurant and we grab that salsa chip and we act our elbow like the bowl in our mouth and it becomes a pivot point. So there's very little energy to grab that chip, put it in our mouth. While we're eating the chip, we pivot our arm back down to the bowl of tortillas. When we finish it, we end up with another chip in our mouth. If you've got this machine and this system and the pulleys and the leverage all working together, how many chips do you think you could eat before they bring the dinner?
Oh, I'm a champion at that. I am a champion.
So give me a number, like 150?
Let's just say 200.
Well, so now here's a KPI as it comes to food. How many calories are in tortilla chips? Now, I'm basing this calories in an app called MyFitnessPal. So how many calories are in 20 chips? Give a number. Now remember, this big old carrot's 30 calories.
I'd say 80 calories.
Okay, what if I were to tell you it's 500?
Okay. That's a lot.
It's not only a lot, is your mind, because you're thinking 30 calorie, or a carrot 30, 20 chips, that's not much. That's your quota. That's 1/5 of what you're going to eat. So you're up to 5,000. So what is the amount of calories that a human body will normally use during a day?
Are you trying to make me feel guilty when
Just looking at GPS? Let's real quick. The normal calorie consumption that a man eat, a man and woman's maybe 1,800, 2,000, a man 2,500. Now, Olympics, that number is going to be 2,000 per thing. 2,000, 2,500. Now you just ate 5,000 calories of chips, so that, I mean, your fuel tank's going to be overflowing. So now, questions. At 3 miles an hour, do you to burn off those 30 calories? Well, let me go with the chips. Those those 20 chips, how long do you have to walk at miles an hour? 3 miles an hour is a good pace. It's not slow either. It's not like walking your dog and you stop every 100 feet. It's like you keep moving. Okay, it's a good pace, but not so fast. 4 miles an hour, you have to actually kind of be in decent condition, or you can't do it. So, but 3 miles an hour, an average person could do it without breaking sweat. but it's not a leisurely walk either. It's a little bit faster than leisurely. So how far do you have to walk to burn off those 20 calories? Or not how far, but how long?
I would guess probably about 3 hours.
No, it's 1 hour and 40 minutes. Those 20 chips, you have 1 hour and 40 minutes to burn them off if you walk 3 miles an hour. That's kind of general information. So that's our KPIs. And now, how did you do on our little KPI test?
I didn't get it all.
Would stuff an A or?
I give myself an F.
And I give you an F. This information is readily attainable, right? Anybody can get it. I mean, it's just an iPhone app. It takes maybe 15, maybe a minute to get that information. So if we're gonna have good rot or bad rot, we need to have KPIs, because you're just gonna kind of through life and you're not gonna know how you're doing. And if we're gonna do like we students is do a loss and a balance. Comments. Look at what worth it. That net worth is look or annually, and look at what you're doing. API right now. If you're 40 years old, let's say that we'll say that just for sake of discussion, you've been an adult for 20 years. Okay. So a 40-year-old's been an adult for 20 years. Take your net worth, divide that by 20, and that's how much you've increased your net worth on an annual basis. So when we had that panel the other day, and I asked that lady on we did some math. How much did your net worth go up last year? And this is your net worth from passive income. How much did your net worth increase? And she hadn't even thought about it. And this was not in her activity. This was her inactivity. This was just from her passive investments. Her net worth increased by $1.2 million. And that was her doing nothing. Now, is that a good return on time? I'd say yes. But it's also, go ahead.
I just said absolutely yes.
Yeah, so that's a good return on time. So how are we doing that? You don't know 20 chips has 500 calories and you're trying to lose weight. What's your chances of losing weight? I would say 0. So if we're going to have a good return on our time, then KPIs have to be part of this. And what are those KPIs? Well, the simplest thing is to write down all your assets, write down all your liabilities, and figure out what your net worth is. And 90% of us maybe 95% of us on this that's hearing this right now can figure it out in 5 minutes. Unless you have something really, really complicated, but if you do, you're already doing this. But you can, in 5 minutes, you can figure that out. And if your net worth is $20,000 and you've been an adult for 20 years, just divide your net worth by the years. Worth increases every year. Meanwhile, that our panelist, the only one we did the math with, her net worth is $0.2 million, and she's real active and she's real busy. And we didn't include any of her active efforts. We included just her passive efforts. So we got to think about this. We got to think about, what am I doing? And for example, if I was to start tomorrow or start today, I would write down what my number is, what my net worth is, and see where I'm at in 3 months, see where I'm at in 6 months, see where I'm at in 12, and do this. It's sort of like a scale. We can all look in the mirror and see if we're losing weight or not. But if you step on that scale every day, there is no lie. You could lie all you want, but there is no lying, because I guess you could say this scale, it's getting worse every day. It keeps getting further and further off, but it's probably not. It's probably the scale is telling the truth. And by the way, if you want to just go down and just kill that lie, just go buy another set of scales and put them side by side. Then you can't even lie to yourself anymore. Anyway, so I would say KPIs are part. So can I throw some good rots out there?
Yes.
I'd say meditation. And for me, I don't intentionally meditate, but like when I take showers or when I'm walking, I meditate. And some of my best ideas are get in a quiet place, let my mind calm down a little bit, and just think about. Usually I've solved a pretty good problem. So I think that exercise, I just think your brain has no value if the machine that operates it dies on you. So exercise has to be a part, maybe not a daily part, but it has to be a big part of what you do. Um, Education. We talked about that 3-day tax class that I took. I, I I mean, unless you've been through what I've been through, you probably don't understand the great value of that. But with Peter Fortunato, when I sat down there and a couple of days with Peter Fortunato a couple of months ago, he literally changed the course of my. And you talked about I sort of adapt. I think you used a different word. Can't remember what the word was you used.
Pivot.
Pivot. So because of that, I was already kind of thinking that, but then when I started sitting there and doing the math and figuring out how I'm spending my time, I realized, hey, it's time for me to make a change. And so, without that education, without that exposure, without that thinking outside of my head and listening to what other people are saying, I would say that's good rot. Another good rot is hang around like-minded people. If you want to be an alcoholic, go to a bar and sit at the end of the bar. If you want to be in perfect physical condition, join a bike club and just show up. And trust me, the social pressure, the enthusiasm, pretty soon you'll be a good bicyclist. Hang around like-minded people. Another one I put is stay away from reckless and lazy people, or people who are always the victim. Just kind of stay away from them. And if they're family members, then you're going to have to. They're your partner, so you have to educate them, and you have to be that rising tide. Another good rot is be where the action is. So I'd say be where the action is. Another good rot is leverage other people's knowledge. There are so many people. Peter Fortunato is 8 years ahead of me in real estate investing. And so he's always going to be ahead of me. I mean, he's brilliant. He's going to be ahead. I'm always going to his time. That's why we're going to Branson, spend 4 days there with really develop a good and I'm going to let her teach me. I think another good rot is care about people, really care about it, and always make people first and the problem second. If you talk to people first and then deal with the problem second, that's a great return on time. Partners last a lifetime. They're supposed to last a lifetime until they die. I've had many of my partners die on me, but usually it's the only way they get rid of me is by dying on me. Good rot, spend a lot. Say, look, tell them you're a taker. I don't have time for you. I believe in giving, and I believe in being a boat in the rising tide. And if you're sucking the air or oxygen or the water out of the room, then I'm out of here. Good rot, don't give up on partners. Another one, and I said this needs sunshine. Do passive. Stop being transactional. Transactional, you can make. We're about to do a flip on a house, and we're going to make a lot of money, but that is not the right plan. It just happened that came in our horizon. We took it down. We did it. We had the resources to do it, and it's still. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, look, I'm going to get a big check, but is it the best use of my time? When that lady got up there and she was on the panels, and I don't want to say her name because she didn't give me permission, but when she got up on there and we did that math on her passive income versus her we didn't even look at her active income. I have no idea what she did active income, but when I looked at that on passive income, she basically made $100,000 a month. And you say, oh, I can have a big check here, but you know what? Maybe that's still a waste of time. Maybe I have to look at and I can build evergreen type projects. In other words, I once and it keeps writing a check forever. And by the way, to me, that's passive real estate. There's a lot of other ways to do that. I mean, there's probably 50 other ways to do that. So just passive income. Look for those things.
Yeah, let me interrupt you right there on that one because we are almost out of time. But getting that big check may not always be the bad thing. What you could do is, what are you going to do with that check that you're going to get to turn it into a bigger check, or to turn it into that to go get another asset, to where it might be you can leverage that big check to get an asset to where it might be worth more than what the check is.
Well, and by the way, that's the sign of telling the massive wealthy from the never wealthy. The massive wealthy takes a big part of that, puts it back into what they're doing. And they now they're smarter than they were before. So they leverage that knowledge and that experience into doing the same thing again, or figuring out how to hold it. If you have a lead generation, if you're, say, a lead magnet, and that's what you all want to be, and there's different ways to be lead magnet. I feel like I do those things to become a lead magnet, and you're totally up your alley. Maybe that's, but anyway, so tell us what's going to be happening in the next 30 days or so, James.
Okay, so first thing is you got to go to LoneStarREIA.net. That's LoneStarREIA.net. We have our monthly main meeting coming up. Peter Ford is going to be there May 14th in Houston. We also have our next meeting, main meeting in San Antonio on May 10th. We're going to be talking about Airbnbs, short-term rentals there. And we also have other classes online as well. Go to LoneStarREIA.net. LoneStarREIA.net. We will see you on the other side. We'll see you at our meeting. We'll see you at our event.
Well, May 14th, here in we got Peter Fortunato.
Massive Passive Show, where we teach investors how to get off the hamster wheel of transactional real estate. Hi, I'm Becky Fields, president of the Greater Houston REIA, and would like to invite you to join us at our regular monthly REIA meetings on the second Saturday morning each month. If you're in the San Antonio area, the Alamo REIA meets on the evening of the second Tuesday each month. Go to LoneStarREIA.org for more information. We would love to see you